I really love Rance Quest. My two favorite Rance games are X and Kichiko. Yes, I know, very original. But something you might not know about me is that Quest very easily reigns as my third favorite. To pinpoint exactly why, well, there are a multitude of reasons. The peak slice of life antics, the involvement of so many characters spanning throughout Rance's history, the comedy in general being top notch, how the game allows for a new side of Rance to be shown via reset. I could go on, but I don't want to bore you with all that. The most relevant to this video is, naturally, that Quest includes my glorious queen, Am. This isn't some hidden secret, as I have been pretty vocal about it, but I'll state it again here just so everyone is on the same page. Am is my favorite Rance girl, my second favorite character in the franchise, my favorite villain / antagonist ever, and of course, just generally one of my favorite characters of all time. So, just like with my previous character retrospective type videos, I want to expand on why I love her as much as I do. Maybe even afterwards, you can even be convinced to join Lady Am's cult with me. Before we move on to the, well, more substantial content, I think it'd be fun to include a bit that Am was actually one of the first Rance girls I ever saw. I know, kind of cryptic, all things considered, huh? I saw an oof poster character bingo, I saw Am on it, and mentally went, oh, she looks pretty Jordan core, and kind of just subconsciously kept the name in the back of my head permanently. Imagine how it felt when I finally reached the game she was from. In a way, it makes her becoming my favorite girl feel quite poetic. So, let's now start with something perhaps blatantly obvious, but I must fulfill my quota for each video. Am is pretty hot. When it comes to character designs, I have two pretty big weaknesses: tights and gothic Lolita fashion. If you combine them both, it would be greatly disastrous for my health. With this said, I'm sure it's pretty easy to imagine how Am caught my eye in the first place. I also appreciate the little tummy opening here. It's cute! Crook is 149 centimeters, which is around 4'8" or 4'9" for us non-centimeter users. When considering how Am and Crook parallel each other in so many ways, of course I'll expand on this a bit more later, I think it's safe to assume that Am is roughly around the same height in her current state. And you know what? I love that. Short queen representation is good for the soul. To get a bit personal for a sec, I work retail, and unironically, the question I face most is, hey, are you even old enough to work here? So, absolutely no disrespect to my tall anime girl queens, but as a result, I find myself drawn to fellow shorter girls fairly often, because man, I understand the struggle. Anyway, you get the idea by now. Her design is Kino. I personally love the way her eyes look too. They have a sort of empty feeling to them, which is of course fitting considering everything she's been through. I also especially love the way they turn red in certain CGs as well. It looks so good. But of course, a good design can exist, but what does it matter if everything else about the character sucks? Okay, well, actually, I still care, because then I get sad about the wasted potential, but that's besides the point. While Am's design is what drew my interest into her initially, everything else about her is what solidified her as the best Rance girl in my eyes. Allow me to preface this next segment with this. When it comes to villains, antagonists, whatever, I'm not really the type of person to be like, if the villain doesn't have a morally correct reason for being evil, I can't like them. If a character wants to be evil just for the sake of being evil, you know what? They got it. That can certainly be fun too. However, I do think Am's motive for, well, doing what she does definitely adds to her appeal to me, as it further demonstrates her insane mental fortitude and just general strength as a person. Through Crook, we're able to firsthand see that, you know, the truth of the world is really messed up. The supposed holy, graceful, innocent deity Alice is actually like, yeah girl, do this horrible shit. I think it'd be pretty amusing, smiley face. Smashing Crook's brain and entire body into smithereens. The idea of everything only existing to amuse some entity we couldn't even dream of touching? Wow, what the hell? To be blunt, I find it sick as hell that Am learned and experienced essentially everything that Crook did, and chose to actually attempt to rebel against such an unbelievably powerful, literally out of this world system, rather than folding completely. In fact, can you even really blame her for wanting to do so? It feels completely believable and understandable to try and rebel against such an unfair world. She figured out a loophole to prevent feeding into the reincarnation cycle and actually followed through with it. Fully corrupted her entire existence, which, of course, naturally Quest shows how corrupted people are normally incomprehensible and filled with despair. Yet she retained all of her intelligence and remains a master manipulator? Is that not just cool as fuck? Side note, it's cool to have this represented in her quote-unquote lore powers too, by being, I think, the only known character to have conversation level 3. But anywho, Ams Plan and how it reflects on her are both extremely fascinating to me. Personally, we know by what she directly tells Rance, as well as just general implications, that she put herself through unbelievable hell in order to fully corrupt herself. This would certainly mean she witnessed, and of course physically experienced, the absolute worst humanity can be. I'm sure I don't need to describe just what deplorable things she likely went through. Yet, despite experiencing this terrible shit, she still wishes to allow humanity to escape its doomed fate through her plan. To me, it represents some unbelievable strength and genuine love for humanity to act out this plan, despite experiencing the complete depravity of it. Of course, the act of quote-unquote polluting someone isn't some magical fun times, so it's not like she's magically free of sin or anything, but I still find it quite interesting to rattle around in my brain. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I find myself drawn to characters who have a deep love for humanity, despite experiencing how cruel they can be. It's part of the many reasons why I love Alicia from Honkai Impact 3 so much. Naturally, as someone who loves crossovers, alternate universe content, or just finding random similarities between my favorites, having a parallel like this between Am and someone like Alicia or Farina just does wonders for my brain. It sort of represents all of the different ways love can take form. It can be beautiful, shining, or unbelievably twisted. It plays into the way she treats those she comes across like lost, dumb little lambs as well. Now for, depending on who you ask, the most important thing about the implications of Am's plan. I must admit it, it's just really cool to want to overthrow God. Go Lady Am, you sound like a complete badass. I'm a simple guy. I'm not immune to hype moments and aura. If a queen says she wants to take down God, you know what? I'll support her. Being chained up, about to be sealed underground for who knows how long, but still being conscious and alive the entire time since you quite literally cannot die. Wow, this sounds fucking horrible. And yet, Emma's like, doesn't matter how long it'll take, one day I will destroy God. Like, okay queen, go off. As I mentioned previously, Am naturally is meant to parallel Crook, to me sort of representing a path Crook could have followed without a presence like Rance in her life. Not a crazy concept, but still one I enjoy a lot nonetheless. I'll admit, it makes the potential Yuri unbelievably yummy, alongside a really fascinating hypothetical. I definitely appreciate how Quest incorporated Am's journey of becoming the Pope and the absolute horrors of it all. It really puts into perspective just how much willpower Am had, alongside how capable she must have been in order to achieve becoming the first female Pope. Now seems like a decent time to just say I adore Am's dialogue in general. Since she's Master Manipulator 700, she has such a smooth way of talking in order to control others. And you know what? I can't help falling for it too. Her presence feels very dominating, like she's always in control, no matter the scenario, even if that's not necessarily true. Whether it be with witty dialogue, or her controlling, motherish tone of characters like Pastel. It's all peak. It also makes her age scene at the end with Rance even more hilarious. Him not falling for her mind manipulation magic because he's too busy being, well, you know, Rance. I'll say it, it's absolute cinema. Definitely among my favorite HDNs and all of Rance. She's kind of freaky, and you know what? I support that. It would have been cool if there was more content when she joins your party after World 3. I completely understand why there isn't, but I would do anything to have more content with the Am Rance Crook triangle. Watching Crook completely fold when Rance decided on Am joining the party and then afterwards being like, girl, please leave me alone, was so amusing to me. Of course, watching her interact with other random characters and seeing how her presence affects them would be peak too. All hail Lady Am! All hail Lady Am! I would like to briefly mention the absolute cinema that is the Ams Plus past of toxic Yuri scenes. It's a true crime that it didn't receive a CG in any form, but it is so yummy. Yeah, I know she caused an epidemic or whatever, but I wish Lady Am would help guide me too. I don't wish to recap all of her story moments, so I will once again use my favorite cop-out answer of saying, my favorite moment of her is any moment when she's on my screen. Hashtag true! On the real, as I mentioned, since I love the way her dialogue is written, I think all scenes of her do go particularly hard. It's fun to see what twisted antics she'll cook up next. Lastly, we can't have an entire video talking about my glorious Queen Am and not talk about how goddamn good her theme is. I've stated previously that Blood Memories is my all-time favorite Rance song, and I doubt that will ever change. But Am's theme is easily among my top 3, perhaps even landing as my second favorite Rance song. It goes so hard, and the fight itself goes hard as hell too. Now, is it maybe a bit too difficult and unfair considering what leads up to it? You know, yeah, probably. But I'm going to be honest, I don't care. If she wants to kick my ass, well, she got it. My queen can do absolutely whatever she wants. It feels more fitting that way anyway. She wants to overthrow God, she can't be a pushover. Her model is so menacing, and the background goes absolutely insane. I think that concludes about everything I wanted to cover. I know this video is on the shorter side, but as I've stated before, I want more digestible content for my channel. Plus, it's less mentally draining for me to edit. Time for the usual plugs. Do the cool YouTube things if you want. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter because it's the social I'm most active on. I retweet very cute things, post my own artwork, and also post updates about progress for my videos. Yay! Lastly, follow me on Twitch so you can catch whenever I go live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around. After all hail Lady Am! All hail Lady Am!